Keeping me hydrated. Okay, I'll try to return the favor. Okay, gentlemen, we're on Orot HaTeshuva, Perek Vav, the 6th chapter, and we're going to start today Bet. We started last week, but we're gonna continue. Whoever, starting with Tshuva Hitamid. Yeah. Page Mem Vav. Shalom. Missed you last week, right? We didn't see each other last week. מגיע לך מזל טוב, right?
תודה רבה. תודה רבה, רביך היימן. תודה.
Okay, gentlemen. I know I say this every week, but I also mean it every week. We have a couple of very beautiful pieces today. Bezat Hashem.
Hey, say blessing, say blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam shekocho gvurosoi malei olam.
Did you have it?
Everybody should say.
Daspin. Are you sure there isn't some moving the Daspin actually?
Shekocho.
Is it cloudy outside?
Amen.
Is it cloudy outside?
Yeah. The reason I'm late is because everyone is driving really slow because of the rain.
It's raining, and it's thunder.
It's right, yeah. Like super sunny, and then all of a sudden. Amen. Amen.
His strength and his might.
The Rav is around.
Rabbi, we're in the middle of
the Rav Mazal Tov that his book came out on the Ma'amarim to distribute and publish many others for him.
Amen.
There was a Jew that was murdered a few years ago in Denmark, so we're dedicating this shur as a friend of the guy that was sitting up front. Linun Nishmat Dan Moshe ben Sergio Mordechai.
Rabbi, we're in the middle of blessing Hashem on the thunder.
Okay.
So we're going around.
We did it also. Do you know this young boy?
Yeah, we met last week.
There's no more ice cream in there. No.
Amen. Beautiful. There was once I had a student here once who was a ger tzedek, and he told me a very beautiful thing, and I've quoted him ever since. He said he grew up American in a Christian household, not extremely religious. I don't think religious at all. But he said, I always believed in God, but I never had a way to connect with him. We had, Xmas and, but like, what do? You bring a tree in the house and that's it. They didn't really go to church so much, I guess. And he didn't feel like he had a way to, he said, in Judaism, every time I learn a new halacha, I'm ecstatic. I have another way to connect to Hashem. Even through the thunder, I can have a relationship with Hashem. Right? I go to the bathroom, I see the lightning, it's amazing. Right. It says in the Gemara that why Hashem create thunder? To straighten out the crookedness in a person's heart. That sometimes we get confused and we get lost and we don't really see things. Right? All of a sudden, last night, so yesterday morning, at 6 a.m, there was a thunderclap in Nachlia where I live. Whoever was sleeping was not sleeping anymore. It was like, one of those, like, it's right there outside your window.
Was your eyes like flashing white? Was the only white?
No, wait, I can't say that. Although I was sleeping, so I only heard it. So I don't know, but the house shook.
Been near me, and it was like, my whole vision was white.
Wow.
In
Nachliel.
Where is it?
Nachliel is where I live. It's a small yishuv near Modi'in. Kind of near Modi'in. Right. Okay, gentlemen. So here we are. One page. Where's the Mem Vav? Yeah. Without any further ado, let's jump into Rav Kook. HaTeshuva tamid shuya belev. Teshuva is always dwelling in a person's heart, right? Like we know like Hashem is always calling us to do teshuva, and also that it says teshuva kadma leolam, that the world teshuva preceded the world. Hashem created the world after He created teshuva, so it's built into the very fabric, and therefore our hearts are constantly seeking better, more, right? Not everybody knows that. Some people think they're seeking more, olam hazeh, more physical pleasure or whatever it is. Spirit of silliness and folly of insanity comes over, right? Because maybe you could say someone that doesn't believe in Hashem and the Torah, okay, fine, he's just doing what he's supposed to do. That's what we're taught to do, is to enjoy life. But if but a person that believes in Hashem and he knows that this is a sin, so how could it be possible that he does it, that he will do it? It's because at that moment there's a spirit of shtut that comes into him, right? But even at that very moment, tshuva is still alive inside of his heart and inside of his soul. And there's a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov, because the Holy Baal Shem Tov, that he says, if you guys have noticed this, I'm sure you're probably used to it by now, but when the first time you probably saw written the word chet, sin, you pronounce chet tet, right? Should we write it? Everybody. Let me write it.
So we only say chet.
Right. If you were to read that, if you didn't know the words, you would say chata, chete, or something like that. Chate, right? We only pronounce the chet and the tet.
But some people say cheta egel.
Chet ha'egel. That's for the next word.
Oh, chet ha'egel.
Right.
It's not chet. Okay.
The word chet is always pronounced like this, chet. Right? This is not the proper vowelization.
If it's a verb, right? It's cheta in the past.
Right.
If it's a noun, it's
right? So the Baal Shem Tov teaches what is that aleph doing there? That is the alufo shel olam. That's Hashem. Hashem, even Teshuva in our hearts it's always ready, even at the moment that the person is falling and he's doing a sin, right? V'hi sholachet et kaveh, and so Teshuva sends forth its rays to the person's consciousness, because it's always there on a subconscious level and a spiritual level, but at that moment he fell and he's involved in whatever he's involved in. Now it sends forth its rays, shehem mitgalim achar kach, and they become revealed after the sin. Meaning it already sends its rays at the moment that a person is sinning, right? The tshuva is already started; it's already functioning, right? But they only become revealed to him afterwards. Be'et sheba nochama korel tshuva. That afterwards comes the consoling kriya, the consoling calling of tshuva, right? And that's the place in his heart that says, "Oy vay, what did I do?" Right? Oh, I could do better than this. This is not befitting me, right? Or I really want to stop doing this. Or I really want to, right? I don't want to talk this way. I don't want to think this way. I don't want to look at this. I don't want to, right? When it comes revealed, it's like a calling. His neshama is calling to him, right? Like what do they call it? The voice of the conscience, or what we call it, the guilty conscience, right? But for us, there's nothing bad about that. That's the voice. That's a consoling, comforting voice of the neshama saying, "There's a way out of this. I don't have to be stuck in this and this." He said, "Ba'omek havaya shel hachaim hamitziutim munachat haTeshuva." In the depth of the existence of true life, of the life, of the existence in this world, munachat haTeshuva. Teshuva is in the actual depth, is in the very depth of the existence of this world of life. And the reason is because, like we said at the beginning, that Teshuva preceded the world. Before Hashem created the world, He created Teshuva. And therefore it's built into the very fabric of the world. You have the right page here? Yeah. We're on page, but yeah, right here. Right. So it's built in, right? Let me ask you, gentlemen, when you don't have to answer me, but you can just answer me with your eyes. When you do something not so good, and afterwards you do tshuva, how do you feel about yourself? Good or bad?
Good.
You feel good afterwards, right?
Depends on.
At the moment of doing tshuva.
If it's real teshuva, yeah.
Real tshuva, right? A lot of people feel bad about themselves. Golly, I can't believe I did this. They're judging themselves. They're making a sweeping judgment about themselves at this moment, right? Hashem built tshuva into the world. There's no way not to fall, right? They say that the way that they used to test soldiers, maybe I told this you guys, I'm not sure, is that they would put warriors. They wanted to see how strong and how good of a fighter he was. They would put all of his armor on him. Armor back then weighed a lot. Right? It's kind of like the big backpacks that our soldiers can't carry. That was just all over your body and metal. And they would put him on an untrained horse. And they would slap the horse, right? So what do you think the test was? How long he stays on the horse? That wasn't the test. Of course he's going to fall off the horse. The question was, how quickly does he get himself back on the horse? Right? That was the test of a real warrior. Right? So too, tshuva, it's built into our lives, is that we have a falling and a rebuilding and a falling and rebuilding, right? Matter of fact, in psychology, the psychology of relationships, also in developmental psychology between parents and children, and also between a couple, the latest science and also just experience shows us is that a great relationship is not a relationship that it's always harmonious. That's not a good relationship. I mean, it's wonderful if you can have it, but that's not necessarily the sign of a healthy and a good and a long-lasting relationship. A long-lasting and healthy relationship is one where there's harmony, and then there's a rupture of the harmony, there's a breaking of it, and then there's a fixing, right? I see in my work with couples that it's not the couples that never fight, which are the most successful couples. It's the ones that know how to make up. They know how to fix things, right? Those are the kelim, tools of repair, right? Is what we call it. How to repair it. I messed up. You messed up. Let's love each other and fix this, right? So too, HaKadosh Baruch Hu built that into the world. It's built in. We shouldn't feel bad that we have to use tshuva. Oh gosh, here I go again. I have to do al-chet. I have to fix things again because I'm so bad and I messed up. No, that's just built into the world, right? And so, v'terem sheba achet kfar monachat tshuva mimenu. And even before the sin comes, the tshuva is already ready for it, right? How could that be? What? Everybody knows that I'm going to sin, or that I have to sin? No, it's just built into the world that's how it works. That's just how it goes. Just right, and everything in the world has this cycle of active and resting. So too we have moments where we're high and that we're focused and that we're clear, and moments that we fall and that we're unclear. Right? It's just built into it. And therefore tshuva is not coming like, hey, if you guys are really bad and mess up, so then look, you can always use tshuva. No. Tshuva is the tool that you use to always keep yourself in perpetual balance in relationship with the Kodesh. And since tshuva is so built into the world, and the very fabric of how this world functions and works, therefore, says Rav Kook, there's nothing that's more batuach, there's nothing that's more sure, there's nothing that's more guaranteed in the world, kamo tshuva. It's always going to win. It's always going to, the world, it has built into it this self-correction, this self-balancing manganon, manganon is a function, mechanism, right? To keep it in balance, we call tshuva, and therefore it's always going to. Hashem built it into the world. It preceded the world, and therefore it's always going to function, right? Whether we like it or not, so to speak, we'll always come to it. I'm going to read you here. It brings a note from the Ramchal, and it's Sefer Dat Tevunot. This is what he says: HaKadosh Baruch Hu sam ketz lemetziut shel tov v'ra. Hashem made a limited time for a reality where there's good and evil. Ukvar gazar mireshit acharit asher תכלנה כל אלה וישאר ייחוד השם מגולה וטובת העולם קבועה לנצח נצחים. And Hashem already made it that there's a set amount of time that there's going to be a choice between good and evil and the existence of evil. In the end, it's all going to be revealed. Just the unification of Hashem and the good of the world forever will be revealed. Meaning, once we call that the Geulah. V'imken kol yom v'yom she'over. Therefore, it comes out. Meaning, right now we're in an existence where we're constantly having to repair, right, and to fix and to heal, right, because there's still evil in the world, right? There's still evil in the world. You know, can you believe it? I mean, Can you believe it that a person could see what happened? Right? There's still evil in the world. How could that have happened? There's still evil in the world. We have what to do in this world. But there's an end to it. Right? And so he says, ואם כן, כל יום ויום שעובר נמצא העולם קרב יותר אל שלמותו. There comes every moment the world is getting, every day that passes, we're getting one day closer to the perfection of the world, to the completion of the world. It's true that if you look at the times maybe of Shlomo HaMelech, it does feel like that. But the truth is that since we believe in the Torah, we believe that this is built in, right? Every day that passes, we're getting closer and closer. והקדוש ברוך הוא במסיבות שונות בעומק עצתו מגלגל תמיד and but that was an end. Yeah, and right, in Russia and Poland, and so the Rebbe, so everything was made out of wood. Everything was built out of wood. The Baal Habayit lived downstairs, and his upstairs he rented out. So this Rebbe stayed upstairs, and the whole night the Baal Habayit laying in his bed, and he hears the Rebbe upstairs walking back and forth, with the wooden houses. The whole night he's thinking to himself, what can I ask him? And so he was serving him breakfast in the morning, and the Rebbe asked him, with the first opportunity that he said, where did you get that clock that's in the room? And he said, for Rebbe, it's so funny you asked. And he said, because once there was a tzaddik here who was the son of the Chozeh Melublin, and he didn't have any money to pay me for his stay here. So he gave me this clock that he said belonged to his father, the Chozeh, and he said, I can use it, and when I come back, I'll pay you, and I'll take the clock. And he never came back, so he left the clock here, right? And so the Rebbe said, I knew it. I knew that was the Chozeh's clock. He said, how did you know? He said, I didn't sleep the whole night. He said, that I did know. I said, but how did you know it was the Chozeh's clock? He said, you have to understand, when you hear the clicking of the ticking of a clock, what do you feel?
Sleepy.
Huh?
Hypnotize you. You feel sleepy.
Sleepy, you feel, okay. So he said most people, when you see time has passed, what do people feel? Even though without thinking about it, nobody thinks about this consciously. I'm 1 second closer to death. Another moment of my life has passed. Right? Life is passing. What have I done? Right? Right? So it's a form of sleep, right? So he said, most people with the passing of time, when a person says, "Oh God, okay," I all of a sudden, like a snap of a finger, now I'm like 60 years old. I'm 70 years old, right? It's scary. What have I done with my life? Have I done enough? Right? It's a scary, right? Yeah, I did an exercise recently with a client, and I asked them, live. This is a great thing to do for everybody, really. Imagine you were told you have 1 week to live. What would you do in that week? Imagine what it would feel like, right? So it's a great exercise for everybody. As a matter of fact, you guys know in the yeshivas, in some of the yeshivas, like in the yeshiva in Slobodka, Slobodka yeshiva, in Slobodka, they used to have in the basement of the yeshiva, they had a coffin, and Bochum used to go lay down in the coffin. To he every day he would lay in a coffin in their attic. I'm not telling you to do it. Don't tell anybody that Rabbi Micha said that we should go hang out in the coffins. But the point is that sometimes it can be invigorating and wake you up to do more in your life. But there's a feeling of fear. The overwhelming feeling is fear, like, oh my gosh, right? So this Rebbe said, when we were by the Chozeh, that was his grandfather, I believe. He said we felt the opposite. Every time, every tick tock, we felt we're getting 1 second closer to the redemption, 1 second closer to Mashiach Tzidkenu, right? 1 second closer to Shleimus, to greatness, right? Which is an amazing. That's the story, and that's what the Ramchal is saying. I'm gonna say it again because it's in the past is real, it's unchangeable, right? There was a war in 1948. There was a civil war in America. There was in India. There was a war in 1947. Whatever it is, these things are unchangeable. What's in the future? Who knows what's going to happen, right? By Am Yisrael, it's the exact opposite. Whatever happened in the past is changeable. We can do tshuva. We can change everything that happened in the past. But what's going to happen in the future is unchangeable. We know 100%. Our prophets told us, the Kadosh Baruch Hu told us what's going to happen. There's going to be redemption. The world is going towards something.
You mean the last few?
Now everything's hefker, and then, but this is all part of and structuring things and pushing things in a direction that they're going to that. And how quickly we get to that future, right? That's the place where of action, right? So you get it. There's nothing that's more guaranteed. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. So that, gentlemen, if we just take in that one point, that can change our entire perspective in life, right? When you read about global warming and about all these types of things, it's very disturbing, right? But we're not disturbed. That doesn't mean that we don't care. And now let's go throw our plastic plates on the ground, right? That's not. But we're not worried that the world is going to fall apart and that everything's going to. It might get crazy here. That might be part of the process, but it's up to us. It's up to us. But there's no question. In the end, everything is going to return to its state of perfection, a state of rectification. Because more so, Am Yisrael is absolutely guaranteed the essence of who they are. Shelahem lehagshim b'chaim et teva nishmatam. It realizes in the life of the entire nation the true nature of their soul. Right? Right now, we're not there. Right now, there's a lot of people that are working on it. A lot of Yidden that are working on what's the essence of the Jewish soul, trying to don't know me, don't really know who they are, and they're trying to be like the nations of the world, right? So, but in the end, it's a guarantee, right? It says it in the Torah, "V'shavta ad Hashem Elokecha." You will return until Hashem your God. And the end of the day, it says it very clearly in the Torah Kedosha that every single Am Yisrael is going to come back. In Hilchot Tshuva, that and Am Yisrael already promised that if a prophet made a negative prophecy, so it doesn't have to come about. Why?
Because we have tshuva.
We have tshuva. We can change the outcome. But if he said a positive prophecy and it didn't come out, so then that's a proof that he's not a real prophet. And that's how they would test the prophet. You guys know it says in the I think Hilchot Yesodei Torah from the Rambam, I'm a prophet. Help us that each one of us we should be zocheh to be prophets. I'm a prophet. Okay, prove it. Okay, it's going to rain tomorrow at 3:03 in Kiryat Moshe.
It can be a positive thing or a negative thing either.
Right. So in the eyes of the Torah, rain is always positive, unless it's too much. Even that.
So it's positive.
Yeah, that's a positive thing.
Sure,
right?
Okay.
Right. Or there's. But if he says there's going to be a fire that breaks out, chas v'shalom, in this such and such house, and it doesn't happen, that's not of truth. They didn't ask him for a negative prophecy. They only asked him for 3 positive prophecies, and once 3 times it happened, so then he's an official, bona fide, certified by the Sanhedrin of Israel prophet. It has to be a positive prophecy.
This says a lot about reality, about negative and positive, and what's our influence. This says a lot.
Totally, absolutely.
And how powerful we can be, and how powerful we are.
Exactly, absolutely.
Also, the parameters should be changed because we can predict if it's gonna rain or not using the. Like a week before, like it showed in my phone, there's gonna be thunder today.
All right. My kids are always happy when it doesn't come out like the forecast. You know, they shouldn't think that they're prophets. Only Hashem. Yeah. But anyway, the point is that it's guaranteed, gentlemen. This is a positive. This is not even a positive prophecy from one of our prophets. This is Hashem Yidbach. But in the end, you're going to come back, and I'm going to bring every single one of you back to my land, and everything is going to be shalem. is going to be perfected, right? Lamrot kol kirot habarzel, and for Am Yisrael, every single Yid, never give up on a Jew. There's a great Rav in America. Oh, you know, Rav
Hotman.
Rav Rotman. Rav Rotman's father-in-law was a great rabbi in America named Rav Shlomo Freifeld, and he made the first yeshiva for Balei Tshuva in America, and one time he was sitting in his sukkah with students, and he heard them talking about some secular Jews or something that were outside doing something not so good, and they were kind of like talking not good about them, and he got really upset. He said, never give up your hope on any Jew. He said, when we were in Egypt, we were on the 49th level of impurity. And the Arizal says that if we would have stayed there one more moment, we wouldn't have been able to come out forever, because we would have fallen to the lowest level of impurity. We were as low as you can go without being stuck forever. 49 days later, we stood that way about a Yid. It doesn't matter what state he's in. Every Yid is going to come back. It's a matter of time. Even though there seems to be from the therapy room, but I feel like it's very relevant. And a lot of times in therapy, a person is so distant from his emotions, it's so hard for him to access his emotions.
This is why they do, what do you call when they...
EMDR. Hypnosis.
Hypnosis, yeah.
One of the reasons for hypnosis, right? But a lot of the work, and this is really important for you guys to hear, for everybody to hear and know. A lot of the healing work that has to take place in anybody's life, doesn't matter what's going on with them, is just having access and accepting the different emotions that they have. To have access to your emotional world, right? And so it sometimes it can feel like there's a machitza, an iron machitza between a person and his own emotions or his own ability to express his real self. Am Yisrael, come on, how long do we have to be in a state of brokenness until we come to our shleimut? How long do we have to, until we realize that we have to love each other? Am Yisrael. That's step number one, right? It can feel like but in the end, right? Which seem to be blocking this powerful nature of ours. But in the end, it's all going to come through. And I just want to read you one more thing here from a letter of Rav Kook. A letter of Rav Kook. This is very beautiful. He says, "Yeshnam shnei dvarim ikarim shehem yachad bonim kedushat Yisrael v'hitkashut elokit imahem." There are two fundamental things that build the holiness of Am Yisrael and their godliness and their godly connection. Ha'echad, one of them, hu asgula. That's the skula. You guys know what a skula is? Skulat Yisrael. This is something that Rav Kook talks about a lot. Skula kelomar teva hakdosha shebenismat Yisrael mirushat avot. The holy nature of the Jewish soul. And its very nature. Hu koach kadosh pnimi soul, which is placed there by Hashem. Kamot teva kol davar. And it's like the nature of anything in this world. Nothing can change its nature, right? Like you guys always hear me joke, a lion cannot wake up one day and say, I want to be a vegetarian, right? And a cow cannot wake up one day and say, I'm going to go, it looks pretty good, those steaks that the lion eats, They can't change their nature, right? Animals and plant life and everything, we see that they don't even think, so to speak. They can't even...
They want to be a cow. They want to be
right.
different stuff.
All kinds of every kind of philosophy under the sun. Just think about emotions. Crazy is that we can shut off our emotions. Something that's so built into us, something that's so fundamental in us. Right? We can never really shut them off, but we can run away from them. We can be in a constant turning away from paying attention to them. Right? But it's a total negation of ourselves, of our nature, and we can do it. But in the end, you can't. And so what happens? That's why people in therapy. That's why people end up in such a hard place in their life, is because it's true you can run away from your emotions for a long time, but eventually they catch you. Right? You have sadness. You have anger. Whatever it is. Eventually it takes its toll on you and you can't keep going. Psychological level or on a physical level. Right? So Rav Kook again, he says that there's two things that build the holiness of Am Yisrael. One is this segula that's built into our nature, and you can't change your nature. So why is it that we're not living it then? He says, "Ele shebrit krutahi," but rather there's a how do you say this? And a camel. It only becomes revealed through our free choice. And maybe some would look at the Jewish soul and Jewish people and say, well, if they were really so holy, they wouldn't be doing this, and this, and this. Look what goes on this street, in this place, and this, right? And like we spoke about before, that many of the worst things that are going on in the world were started by Jews. You know? Concepts of that made what we see in the world. Why can't they get their act together? Right? So the answer Rav Kook gives, this very fundamental piece of Rav Kook in this letter, says that Hashem made it, that this is the one thing that, the only way that it'll come out is through free choice. We have to choose that nature. As opposed to everything else that just gets it for free, we have to choose it, and that's our work. That's the entirety of our work. Until Mashiach comes, is to choose to live in sync with our HaTivit. There's different kinds of yira. I don't want to get punished for that in the next world, right? Yira tonesh. It's the lowest level, but it's something, right?
So sorry, because if I have to think about, I'm gonna choose Burger, yeah. I would like, for my sensibility, not education. It is like wrong. I was educated. That is not something right to do. It's not. That is something that I see the bad through the bad through. So I'm like, I do because it's an order, yeah.
Right.
Isn't it the same thing, or this is like a step lower?
Well, it depends. Let's it'll become answered. This is a good itself. I don't want to sin because I don't want to go against Hashem, right? That's for me, right? I don't want it. Morals, right? The nature of man has yirat chet, has a fear of sin, meaning against going against morality. Meaning in the of each man, each human, he has a built-in compass that upright, straight. And they have made all kinds of cheshbonot. They can murder somebody or hurt somebody without any compunction. I mean, any feeling of remorse about that. Stealing feels wrong. It feels wrong, right? Things that are immoral feel wrong to the human soul in its nature. Some people could be very, very far from that nature, or they could be so traumatized. A lot of people blame trauma for the terrible immorality in the world, right? Well, I'm so hurt.
Sadly, lots of times it's true.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call that just trauma, but like bad experience or bad treatments. But
Absolutely. That's the story. That's the story of how justification for there's something to be done there. There's healing that has to be taking place there, but that's never a justification for you lowering your standard of morality, right? So, and I don't think that people actually think. A lot of people don't really think through that cheshbon, but that's how it comes out for a lot of people. But in any sense, what the point that Rav Kook is saying is that it's natural for people that fear of doing something immoral. So he says, so too, v'hi teva Yisraeli hamiyuchad extra function in their soul, that not only do we have a distaste from immorality, but also have a distaste for going against anything in the Torah. Built into, just like mankind, you tell your friend, right? And what does the Gemara say? The first time a person does a sin, so it looks like something. No, that's the Chazal thing. Gemara says first the Yetzer Hara says give me a finger, and in the end it takes your whole hand. right? At first it feels like not such a big deal, and then so and that's in mankind. Am Yisrael has that towards the mitzvahs of the Torah. Shabbos comes naturally. Away from that, right? But we have to, that what the Chiddush Rav Kook is saying is that it's built into our nature. So if that's our nature, we have to return to that nature. We have to restore that nature. How do we restore that nature? Right? So he says the way that we restore that nature is very, very clear about this. Is through Talmud Torah B'hamon. It's through massive amounts of Talmud Torah, learning Torah. This is why we're so crazy about learning, right? Sometimes people who come to yeshiva and they're more kind of like the activist, thrown off by the fact that there's such a focus specifically on learning. Why learning all the time? Let's go do, right? Learning is important, but not more than doing. That's the purpose of learning is to do, isn't it? Right? But there's something that happens in learning, and this is what Rav Kook is saying. This restores our nature. Talmud Torah legadel Talmidei Chachamim, the kind of learning that raises people to be Talmidei Chachamim, to be Torah scholars, but Talmud Torah shekviyuti team the Torah lehamun arachav, and also the Torah of the kviyuti team of learning Torah, but it has to be set.
How do you mean set? Like
right after Shachrit, I learn one halacha. Right after Aravit, I learn one halacha. Let's say.
To be set, I cannot do like after Shacharit, one halacha, or tomorrow after Shiur.
Right. Once in the day, once in the night, and if you miss it, you make it up.
Okay.
That's called kviyuti tim, and that's the basic minimal mitzvah of limud Torah. So he says, and also massive amounts of learning Torah, the really deep kind of learning that develops people into Torah scholars, and also the basic learning of the masses that make sure that they learn day and night, that they're always learning at least something. That restores the nature of Am Yisrael. It's impossible. That's right. This piece, you have to keep in mind also the historical context of when Rav Kook is writing this. Rav Kook is writing this. The majority of them were throwing off the yoke of mitzvot, and they were saying, it's enough that we're in the land of Israel now. Now we can be, we're a new kind of Jew. We're not a galut Jew. We don't have to keep all the mitzvot. We don't have to have a beard. We don't have to have pes. We don't have to this. But they weren't denying that the fact they were Jews. They were very, very proud of the Jewish aspect. They thought this is the new kind of Jew. Rav Kook says, it's impossible for Am Yisrael to return to its strength, to live a natural life of our nature, unless we also restore our spiritual nature in all of its aspects. It's not just enough. It's true, coming back to the land of Israel restores a huge piece of our nature on a physical level and on a spiritual level. But we have to have all the spiritual aspects of our soul return, of our nature, to be restored. That it's this nature of pasnish. You guys know what that means, pasnish? There's no such thing as bad boys or bad girls. They say this is pasnish. This is not befitting.
Pass.
Right? And that drive of the soul to overcome sin and to do tshuva when we fall, meaning that listening to that inner compass that's really built into our nature, that's the strongest and one of the most important pieces of the nature of our soul, and that has to be restored. So when you come to Israel and you take off your kippah and you say, I'm a strong modern Jew, and when the power of the nation and its nature will start to overcome in all of its completeness and all of its aspects, tipasek atzisa hamachira et adat. Then the understanding, the wisdom of the nation. You guys know it says in the Gemara that when a person sins, it's mitamtemet alev. The Ramban HaKadosh brings eating kosher food eating unkosher food, it makes a person's heart less sensitive. And when a person's heart is less sensitive, so then they can start to have beliefs that don't really make sense, that are not really yashar, that are not really. Once we return this, there's people who are influential people, they're powerful. המכשירים הלאומיים ישובו כולם להתעסק גם כן בדבר הקביעות של החזרה אל הטבעיות המוסרית העמוקה והמיוחדת לישראל. Those people will all start to become interested and push themselves in the direction of returning the true ethical and moral and spiritual nature of Am Yisrael. They're great thinkers, they're scientists, they're doing all kinds of things, and they're very influential in the world, and doing things and pushing things and forming ideas for the nation, right? But it's great that it's every time there's a new science discovery in Israel or something, everybody gets all excited, another invention, that's going to change how we use our computers. Gewalt, it's great, new solutions for illnesses and things like that. I'm not Khalila saying anything against it, but all those people are powerful people. They have strength to guide and to shape and to push our nation, right? But if they're not thinking about it in spiritual terms, so we're not growing spiritually. We're growing physically in certain ways, but that's not really what we're here for, right? It's wonderful, but it's not really the purpose, right? So all those people are going to become interested. They're all going to start to push and let's finish the piece though. Shehi medakdeket kechut hasar, and this nature of the exactness of a hair, meaning I don't know how to say that, of on the b'chol diktukei Torah v'diktukei sofrim yukru in our national existence. Without that, meaning it's great to be happening. You have this huge, massive wave of the masses of Am Yisrael that are really, especially in this war. I don't know if you guys heard about what was happening, in the army. Everybody wanted tzitzis. There's hundreds of thousands of pairs of tzitzis were being created in shuls. They were tying tzitzis. My Rav delivered more than I think 3,000 pairs of tefillin to soldiers that wanted tefillin. They were begging for tefillin, right? There was all kinds, all over in every sector of Israeli society, specifically in the most secular places. There was a huge awakening right now, right? That's what we realized that we need. Story of Rav Uri Zohar is the following. He was an amazing person. He made movies. His movies still are aired on Israeli television today. He was probably the most famous. Him and his good buddy was the famous musician Arik Einstein. You heard of Arik Einstein? He's the most famous Israeli among Israelis. Arik Einstein. There's no person that doesn't know Arik Einstein. Most famous Israeli. He's like the Beatles of Israel, right? And the two of them were best friends, and they lived in Yafo together, and they were from Yerushalayim in Israel. That he met a Talmid Chacham, a rabbi, and the rabbi told him, he said, I've got answers for every question you've got, and the Torah has answers for everything. So it intrigued him. He came to his house in Yerushalayim, and he saw this tiny apartment. He see the walls because it was covered up with books, and he was looking around. He said, "How many children do you have?" And he said, 17. And he's like looking around, and he said, "Uri, look at me." And he looked at him. He said, "You're looking at the happiest man on earth." What about you? How happy are you? And so he started talking. Anyway, it didn't become a Baal Tshuva, right? He became very famous. He started an organization doing Kiruv, Rav Uri Zohar. Zohar, yeah. He's got books in English also. Here he was a powerful, influential person, right? He was on TV all the time. He was on the radio all the time. If he said something about politics, everybody listened, right? Him and Arik Einstein. But all of his children are religious, and all of Arik Einstein's children are religious. And some of them are even married with each other, right? But this was like the creme de la creme of secular Israel. What do you think the response was to them once he became religious? It became less interesting. They didn't want to have him on the radio anymore. They didn't want. They're going to do like Rav Uri Zohar. Let's come back to our spiritual nature. It's wonderful that we know how to make movies. It's wonderful that we know how to, right? But our spiritual nature, that's what's really waiting, right? B'ezrat Hashem.